Good morning, friends, and welcome to another edition of Crime Time with DutyRon and Ed Wallace. This morning, we have a horrible case to talk to you about out of Pocatello, Idaho. Saturday, April 5th at around 5:22 p.m., an autistic 17-year-old was shot and killed by Pocatello police responding to a neighbor's phone call about a dispute involving someone potentially drunk and brandishing a knife. This story is disturbing on many levels from a police standpoint. You know, as a law enforcement professional, we were trained to assess the situation that you respond to and try your best to use non-lethal devices. Example, taser. Example, mace. Example, nightstick. None of that happened in this case. The police who responded, from all of the accounts that I have viewed, went immediately to lethal force. They fired 9 shots into this 17-year-old autistic boy who was also nonverbal and afflicted with cerebral palsy. He was not able to walk properly. This situation is an example of non-de-escalation. These police went straight to deadly physical force. We're going to get into it. I want to say a special thank you to the Patreon supporters, the channel members, the Buy Me Cups of Coffee, the mods, the replay viewers. You guys are what makes this a great place. Before we play this, I want you to know, folks, that this involves disturbing details. So if you suffer from PTSD or any type of sensitive information, just be forewarned. Thank you, Stacy, for being here. Thank you to everybody for joining.
The death of a teen with autism in Idaho a week after he was shot by police. The teen's family making the difficult decision to take him off life support Saturday. ABC's Zareen Shaw joins us with what the family would now like to see happen next. Zareen, good morning.
Good morning, Janae. The family told us they are looking for justice. For them, they say that means seeing the officers involved either fired or in jail. All of this coming as the Perez family said goodbye to Victor. This morning, an investigation into how multiple Idaho police officers shot a teenager with autism still underway after his family said their final goodbyes to Victor Perez. Supporters asking for justice at vigils over the weekend.
It could have been any one of our kids, and no kid should have had to go through what they went through.
The family of the 17-year-old says Perez had been taken off life support after doctors determined he'd been left brain dead after that shooting. The controversial incident happened during a barbecue last week, a witness calling police and reporting what they described as an escalating incident.
I want to stop it right here because I want everybody to see that 1, 2, 3, 4 police officers are now immediately going to deadly physical force. This officer has a shotgun that we watched him rack that shotgun back and put one shotgun shell into the chamber. He's pointing directly down at the lower part of our victim, Victor Perez. He shoots him in the leg, causing his leg to have to be amputated. This shot right here, I believe, from the shotgun is what took Victor Perez's leg off and put him in the hospital, and he was deemed dead twice, and they revived him. They had to perform surgery to remove his leg and have him on life support. But this is an example of immediate escalation, and I'm gonna just put it back. This is his aunt holding on to him, his shirt. He's nonverbal, autistic, and has cerebral palsy, so he cannot walk properly. This man right here it looked like he was either taking pictures of him and filming, and this film comes from the neighbor who made the phone call. His son made the phone call, and this is coming from the neighbor across the street.
During a
Watch how the officers go directly to deadly physical force with the handguns and a shotgun.
barbecue last week, a witness calling police and reporting what they described as an escalating incident. Watch as police are.
So you hear that the caller says he's running around with a knife and then falling over. I think he just stabbed himself.
Watch as police arrive. They command the teenager to drop the knife. Moments later, as Perez walks towards them, police start shooting from the other side of the fence, sending him to the hospital.
In situations like this, officers must make decisions in seconds. They assess threats, not just to themselves, but to those nearby. In this case, two individuals were within a few feet of an armed, non-compliant individual. The risk was immediate and the situation rapidly.
I mean, I don't like to Monday morning quarterback things, but unfortunately, in a situation like this, you only are left with the videos. A taser. Why wasn't a taser deployed? Did these officers not have a taser? I know for a fact, we're going to listen to the full 911 call, that the people who called did not know that this 17-year-old was autistic. The person that called did not know he was nonverbal, and it was not indicated to the police. So I see some people in the chat are asking that. We're going to get to that. And the answer to that question is the police did not have that information. But you can bet your bottom dollar that this person right here, where my cursor is, who was filming or taking pictures of him, and the woman, his aunt, who was back here, I could bet my bottom dollar that they were screaming at the police all the information that they needed to know. They didn't take any time to listen to them because they responded in 17 seconds. They fired 9 shots. 9 shots. The caller is struggling. The caller is a young adult who is definitely struggling with the decision that he made to call 911. We'll see that in a little bit. But let's just take a listen. This is the police chief at the press conference. But here you see, this is his aunt, I believe. She was holding on to him, and this guy has his phone out right here.
Of an armed, non-compliant individual. The risk was immediate and the situation rapidly evolving.
The family saying they want this image shown after doctors amputated Perez's leg while trying to save him.
I just want answers. Why with my nephew they used shoot to kill, because that's what they did.
Protests erupting in Pocatello after the video of this incident went viral. The father and son that called 911 apologizing to the.
Here, this is the son who called 911. This is the father who was filming it. And this is the aunt talking to them. They, again, have to live with what happened. But at the same time, they didn't have the knowledge that they needed to have to give to the police. They just saw somebody with a knife and a dispute going on. I believe the call came in as a dispute with a knife, and they said possibly someone intoxicated. So that's, again, a difficult situation. Let me know in the chat what you think about the police going directly to deadly physical force. Was it warranted? Was it necessary? Or could they have, well, now I don't know if Pocatello police, if someone's from Pocatello, please let me know. Does Pocatello police have tasers? I know that every police department has mace available to them. Is Pocatello properly equipped? Do they have a taser? Does a supervisor carry taser? That's what I would want to know, because this, you had them isolated and contained behind a fence. You could have instructed the woman to go in the house and lock the door inside that fence. You could have instructed them, hey, go inside, lock your door. And now it would have been just him inside that fence. They could have tased him, and this person this 17-year-old Victor Perez would be alive today.
Video of this incident went viral. The father and son that called 911 apologizing to the Perez family.
I had no idea this would happen. I'm so sorry.
And the mayor says an investigation into the incident is underway. As for police body camera footage, officials have not yet provided a timeline as to when or if it will be released.
Police do have body cam footage, and the mayor and the police chief, I think, alluded to that it will be released at a specific time. I want to say thank you to Julie Moskowitz for immediately, Dr. Ed Moskowitz, may he rest in peace, his wife, messaged me immediately about this case, and I had to take some time to watch and evaluate what was going on. And what I've seen so far is a definite escalation of deadly physical force that shouldn't have happened. They should have went from non-lethal to, if that didn't work, potentially lethal in this situation. And it's just a travesty of justice, in my opinion. Let's take a look at World News Tonight, because they did some coverage on this. And actually, I want to go to a local station, because you get better news from local stations than you do from national programs like World News Tonight. They did cover this, but let's take a listen and watch from one of the local stations there.
Good evening and welcome to Idaho News 6. I'm Isaiah Sharp. Tonight we begin with breaking news. As we speak, protesters in Pocatello are demonstrating after police officers shot a 17-year-old autistic male on Saturday evening. The police action came in response to a domestic disturbance between two males and a female that was reported near the 700 block of North Harrison Street. An investigation into the incident is ongoing, but residents in the area have taken to the streets to protest what they consider to be excessive lethal force by the officer on the scene. According to the family, the male victim that was shot several times is currently at Portneuf Medical Center, where he remains in critical condition.
Okay, so this is, again, coverage from prior. Victor Perez's family made the difficult decision on Friday, this Friday, to take their son off life support. So April 11th, I believe, Friday, they made the harrowing, horrific decision to take him off life support because there was no brain activity, according to the neurosurgeons and the neurologists. But this is local. I want to play it, and it's older. So again, I can't overemphasize the importance of, community. There is community unrest, and rightfully so. If I lived in this community, if this happened in my community, I would be outraged, because this could happen to anybody. Never mind a 17-year-old autistic boy. They didn't give this person a chance to even say anything. They didn't even give the people on the scene a chance to say anything. So this, my friends, could happen to anybody in Pocatello. This just happened to be compounded by that this was a nonverbal autistic boy suffering from cerebral palsy. This is a travesty of justice, truly horrific. This should never happen. Non-lethal taser should have been deployed first.
Our sister station, Local News 8, has this story. I'd like to warn you, the following footage is highly graphic and viewer discretion is advised.
You can see in the video autistic teenager Victor Perez holding a knife and threatening his mother. His family says he did have behavioral incidents because of his autism. And
look, you can see a small little girl in the next yard. There's a fence that goes between these two properties, but right here you could see a young girl, and she didn't seem too disturbed by this. This may have happened in the past. This may have happened where they've had arguments, or where he's grabbed a knife and never harmed anybody in that house, never harmed anyone in the neighborhood. But this is just horrific. This guy here, I don't know who this is, but he's got his phone up and he must be videoing or taking pictures, or I don't know what he's doing, but he's on the outside of this fence and watching.
Mental and physical handicaps, knife, and threatening his mother. His family says he did have behavioral incidents because of his autism and mental and physical handicaps. Neighbors who shot the video said they called police hoping to help the family de-escalate the situation. However, when police arrive, that is not what happened.
This is almost the whole thing.
Oh, yeah, they're here.
Just want to tell you, this is almost the whole thing. They stop it once the shots go off. I actually watched the unedited version of this, and it's hard to watch. It's really hard to watch.
Yep, I'm watching. Yep. Okay, bye.
Was having a really bad day with mental issues, but he wasn't chasing anybody, and everybody could easily get out of the reach of his knife. So this wasn't a really dangerous situation, and the police were more called to come in and help the family de-escalate and get it under control. And this is the biggest tragedy. I witnessed it, and it was really tough on me and my son to watch that. And I just want to send out my deepest sympathies to the family. And we were trying to help you. We weren't trying to bring a firing squad down to Harrison Street.
You can see in the video.
All right, I'm going to, and I'm going to let this play all the way through, but I want to show you again, for those of you who are coming in late, and let me know in the chat if you feel that this was unjustified by putting a 1 in the chat. If they could have used non-lethal, a taser, non-lethal method of de-escalation, put a 2 in the chat. I'm putting a 2 all day, every day. These officers, and I'm going to play this slowly back for you guys. I'm going to put it on slow. Watch how they unholster their weapons immediately. And if they had a taser, I did not see a yellow taser come out of anyone's holster. As a matter of fact, I saw a shotgun come out from an officer, and he racked that shotgun. He racked that shotgun back and placed a shotgun shell in the chamber, ready to shoot. This woman, who we now know is his mother. Other reports said that was his aunt, but this is his mother. His mother could have retreated into the house, into their home back here, and locked the door at the direction of the responding police. You would have isolation and containment of this individual in a fenced-in area, and they could have used non-lethal method of de-escalation, which they didn't. Now let's watch it through. Pay close attention to the officers as they come up. Firearms. They go directly to firearm.
Autistic teenager Victor Perez holding a knife and threatening his mother. His family says he did have behavioral incidents because of his autism and mental and physical handicaps. Neighbors who shot the video said they called police hoping to help the family de-escalate the situation. However, when police arrive, that is not what happened.
Watch closely.
Oh, yeah, they're here. Yep, I'm watching from out there. Yep, okay, bye.
Second officer. If you're a right-handed shot, on the left side is where the taser goes. Nobody's taser is out. It's all weapons. Firearm. Firearm. There's the taser. I see it right there on the left side. So they do have tasers. Taser, taser. I see it.
Was having a really bad day with mental issues, but he wasn't chasing anybody, and everybody could easily get out of the reach of his knife. So this wasn't a really dangerous situation, and the police were more called to come in and help the family de-escalate and get it under control. And this is the biggest tragedy. I witnessed it, and it was really tough on me and my son to watch that. And I just want to send out my deepest sympathies to the family. And we were trying to help you. We weren't trying to bring a firing squad down to Harrison Street.
Now that's the neighbor again. He said we did not. Our intention was not to bring a firing squad down onto Harrison Street. That's the street where this happened. 703 North Harrison Street is the location. This was not suicide by cop. For those of you who were joining early, I think I saw Michael with the comment. Michael Davis has said, looks like suicide by police. No, it was a neighbor that saw this going on and assumed it was a family dispute. They also, we're gonna listen to the 911 call. The police 5 days later on the 10th did a press conference along with the mayor. We're gonna take a listen to that now.
He tried to stop him. He was here. He tried to stop the officers. The officer just came. They didn't even say what's going on. The kid was there. He was already on the floor. He was standing. He was not going after police. He have impairment. He can barely walk. He can barely walk. And people who is around here, they can tell that.
Yeah. They're showing the distance that was had here. This is arguably 20, 25 feet of distance between this fence and where that man is standing. It's at least a good 15, 20, 25 feet of distance. And they say time plus distance equals safety. They not only had time and distance, but they had a barrier, a fence. Look, you can get a look at the house in the background. The woman, his mom could have retreated and locked that door and locked the boy out, her son out of the house. And police had this whole area to contain him and use less than lethal force. Use a taser, use mace, use anything that you had to. Look, for crying out loud, the mother was grabbing that boy by his shirt with a big he had a big, huge knife. You'll see a picture of it. She wasn't afraid of him. She wasn't afraid that he was going to kill her. She was grabbing him by the shirt, So these police are suspended with pay, unfortunately. They're suspended with pay, which is contractual by the police unions in Pocatello, Idaho. But in my opinion, there's an outside source. The Eastern Idaho Critical Incident outside investigation is investigating it. In my opinion, these officers should be fired and charged, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. Again, I respect everybody else's opinion. Some might say that it's a little harsh, but I don't think so. If this was your son or if this is your family member and this happened to them, I think that you would agree with me on this. The police should be fired and they should never be out on the street because they are a danger to the people that they serve in Pocatello, Idaho, in my opinion. Anybody, and that's 4 of these fuckers, standing there with firearms out, with a barrier of a fence in between them, they should not be out protecting. You're supposed to protect and serve, not respond and kill. Yeah.
Pictures out tells
He was here. He tried to stop the officers. The officer just came. They didn't even say what's going on. The kid was there. He was already on the floor. He was standing. He was not going after police.
I don't think, Miracle Girl, that based on what we saw, that there needs to be an investigation. You have it on video. They have body cam footage. We have independent civilians videoing. They came up and in 17 seconds shot 9 times at this kid. I don't know what more, Miracle Girl, you might need, but me, as a former law enforcement professional, that tells the tale. So, Miracle Girl, I wholeheartedly disagree with you that a further investigation needs to be done. It's all in black and white on video. What more do you need? That's what I ask. What more do you need? If that was your son, would you be leaving a comment like that in this comment section? I don't fucking think so. So to the people who make these comments, get the fuck out of here, because that is what makes this even more wrong. Get out.
He have impairment. He can barely walk. He can barely walk. And people who is around here, they can tell that.
Victor's aunt tells us that he is fighting for his life in the hospital.
No, today they told me they have to cut his leg, but he's so weak that he might not survive. So we're still here waiting for the doctor to tell us.
My heart breaks for that family. And we know that he was on life support and they had to take him off the life support. Let's listen to what the mayor 5 days later had to say, because the community, there was the community unrest. There's protests in Pocatello, Idaho. Dr. Ed Moskowitz's wife, Julie, told me her own daughter went to one of these protests. 5 days of silence. This incident took place on Saturday, April 5th. And it took until April 10th, 5 days later, because of community unrest, for the police and the mayor to make a statement. What does that tell you?
The Pocatello community has experienced a tragic event,
This is the mayor.
and we are all reeling from what happened, especially the Perez family. Please know this incident has my full attention. The city council and I do not take what happened lightly. We are addressing this matter with the seriousness and the thoroughness it deserves, and with the appropriate respect for the gravity of the situation. The criminal, external, and internal investigations regarding the officer-involved shooting are underway, which is why we cannot answer questions out of concern of interfering with or compromising the investigation. What I can tell you is the 4 officers were immediately placed on administrative leave following the incident, per City of Pocatello policy. We expect to release body camera footage in coming weeks. We truly recognize the difficulty and pain of this situation. Everyone is looking for answers, including me and the City Council. That is why it is important to let the Eastern Idaho Critical Incident Task Force and others complete their investigations.
I'm going to stop it right there because my good friend, Conservative Felon, and others, including Queen of Petty, we are so heartbroken over this. Anna, Victor's aunt, is literally the sweetest person I've ever met. My heart breaks for the community and for the family of Pocatello, Idaho. And this is a classic example of the mayor and the police commissioner coming out and making a statement that, again, Conservative Felon hit the nail on the head, sounds like a well-written, planned bullshit speech. This family, and no family in the United States of America or anywhere in the world for that matter, should have the people who we have in place to protect and serve us to come. And I was a public servant for 20 plus years. To have the people who we pay to protect, we pay our taxes for the police and fire and all of the services that we have from the public. A public servant is not supposed to come and just in 17 seconds open fire, especially when they had a barrier and a place to isolate and contain this suspect, this subject. I know that they got a call for someone brandishing a knife that was possibly drunk, but come on, man, you got to give this is unacceptable, folks.
Once the investigations are complete, we will act in accordance with the findings. No determinations will be made until the independent investigators have done their job. Again, please know this incident is top of mind for me and the City Council. Right now, our thoughts are with the Perez family,
What does that do?
the neighborhood residents who witnessed the interaction, the entire community, and all members of the Pocatello Police Department. It will take a very long time for us to find normalcy, but our hope is we can find a way to move forward and build a stronger community together.
So there's the statement from the Pocatello mayor, who's in charge of all operations in Pocatello. The Pocatello mayor is in charge of the Pocatello police police commissioner. Ed Wallace has said that that is what another officer with the same training and experience, found in the same circumstances, take the same actions. That is what this is. Okay, maybe I'm reading that wrong. But anyways, Carol, Loving Alaska, good to see you. Thank you, Ed, for always being here. We appreciate you. And again, I'm off from work today for the Jewish holiday, so I figured I would take the time to cover this case because nobody's talking about it on YouTube. I don't see anybody talking about it. And to me, that's concerning. When you have a case of this magnitude, it deserves to get coverage because this can't happen. We can't have this happening, period. There is no excuse for this. All right, this is 8 minutes and 41 seconds.
All right, for those of you that don't know me.
And this is the police chief of Pocatello, Idaho. If anybody's from Pocatello and want to come up and join me to give some local public insight, I'll be happy to share the link and you could come up and you could talk with me and give our audience a little bit of insight from folks who are boots on the ground in Pocatello. If you're interested, let me know and I'll get you the link so you can come in and join me to give some local perspective. I would love to have that. So let's share this. Hold on a second, folks. Not sure what happened there. Oh, okay. Got it. Share screen. Come on, DutyRon. I know it's the morning, but let's get it done.
My name is Chief Roger Schei, ROGERSCHEI is the spelling on that. Good evening, and thank you for being here. We will not be taking questions at this time due to ongoing criminal external and internal investigations. We understand the concern and emotion surrounding the officer-involved shooting that occurred on April the 5th, 2025.
This is April 10th.
This press conference is meant to provide clarity, share the information we can at this stage, and address some misconceptions that have emerged. At approximately 5:22 p.m. Saturday, April the 5th, Pocatello police officers were dispatched to 703 North Harrison in response to a reported disturbance. We will now play the 911 call to provide context for what our officers were responding to.
All right, let's take a listen to this 911 call.
Yeah, I work at a shop in 658 North Main, and there is a couple up behind their shop brandishing a knife. Looks like they're trying to attack someone. There's a man and a woman in the street who seems like he's antagonizing him. One guy's got a knife. It looks like he's under the influence, and they're out and taking each other around. Okay. And then in the backyard of the residence? Yeah, backyard of the residence. I don't know the exact. 658 North Main. And I don't know the video of it, but this guy, he's pretty strong. He's just running out of the knife and then falling over, and I think he was shot in the profile.
Okay. Can I take it on the phone for just a second?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Coach is good for you then?
Okay, it was kind of mumbled for those of you who didn't hear what he said. He basically said there was some kind of disturbance going on, and he said someone was hit over the head with a piece of wood, I believe. From what I gathered, so the 911 caller is saying that there's a domestic dispute going on, and that potentially someone there is drunk. So again, the neighbors across the street apparently didn't have the data or didn't know. Maybe they didn't know the inner workings of this family. Maybe this boy wasn't outside a lot like that. That's a possibility. So instead of pointing fingers at them, like, why didn't they know? Maybe this older gentleman's son was just visiting for the day and doesn't live there anymore. He looks like he's a young adult. So there's any bit of possibility of why they didn't know that the victim, Victor Perez, who was murdered by police, was autistic and nonverbal. So let's just take a listen.
And then there's just the one with the
Yeah, one guy was falling over, and I think he was shot in the profile.
Okay. Can I take it on the phone for just a second?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Coach is good for you then, and then there's just the one with the knife.
Yeah, one guy with a knife. There was a guy hitting him with a stick from the alleyway, and then the wife was just kind of calling the guy down. Just think he just fell on the ground and could have passed. And it looked like the other guy in the alley was posting around. The guy was talking with the knife.
Okay.
What's your name?
What's your name?
My name is Bridger Andrews.
Okay. When you say there's a backyard, which way is the yard from where you're at?
So it's coming from Main Street. It's behind A+ Auto Repair. You go to right on Main Street, from Main Street, and there's this side road here on the
Okay. Behind the auto repair shop?
Yeah, behind the auto repair shop. Behind the one auto, auto repair. To get up to again.
Okay. I'll just keep you on the phone. I'm officers calling, but just let me know what you're seeing, okay?
Okay, sounds good.
I just want to address this comment. We don't know that. And even if he did have alcohol in his system, it still doesn't make it correct and justified for police to go directly to deadly physical force. Yes, a knife is a deadly weapon. Yes, a knife fight is dangerous. The professionals argue that knife fights are more dangerous than a gunfight. Edged weapons are very dangerous at very close range. But when they had him isolated and contained behind a fence and could have instructed the mother to run back into the house or jump over the fence, the mother looked like she was completely capable of getting out of that fence or going into her house and locking the door, which they didn't do. There was no instructions. 17 seconds in between the time they responded and to the time that they shot this boy 9 times. No excuse. I don't care if he was on drugs or drunk. It doesn't matter in my eyes. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Are you with me or do you think I'm wrong?
I'm officers responding, but just let me know what you're seeing, okay?
Okay, sounds good.
Does it look like
Trying to calm him down.
okay, does it look like he's injured at all?
He's laying on the ground he looks like he's on drugs or something. He's kind of freaking out of his mind. But he keeps pointing a knife at them and yelling something. They're not speaking English.
They're not speaking English?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I've got to get hard drugs for sure. I have my dad recording the whole thing right now.
Okay, cool.
You might be having a seizure or something. You keep sort of shaking.
Ed, I see you in the studio. Just let me know. Give me either like a thumbs up, quick, open up the camera, and give me a thumbs up or let me know when you're ready. I don't want to just put you on.
So you ever know that a walk? Absolutely. Sounds looking at me here. Okay. Can you see if he's on the ground now? Yeah, he's kind of standing up in the door. He's sitting down on the ground. Yeah, he's kind of down there. Okay. It's a big time play. Okay. It's like more of a shitty type. It looks like a really big kitchen house. Really big kitchen. Okay. And then the neighbors seem to be crowding around, and now there's more people involved. Okay. Well, safety and that as well, just in case, but. Yeah. No, it looks like nothing's too early, but the guy. Yeah, it's a lot. You're probably going to have a little bit of headache.
All right. So as you can hear from this, and I know it's mumbled, and that's why I keep stopping it to tell you, basically the neighbor is saying that there's a drunk dispute going on with violence going on. He's talking about it, him getting hit with a stick, so much. But it is not a good presentation by this police chief to play garbled audio of a 911 call. I would like to FOIA request that 911 call and really hear it clear, crystal clear. Ed Wallace is joining us without camera. Ed, how you doing, brother? I know you got a lot to say about this, and I know you're busy getting ready to go to work. What do you got?
Well, can you hear me, first of all?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, great. You read that one comment I wrote, but I had written a previous comment. So this is very disturbing to me. Now, understand, in 15 years in the crime scene unit, I investigated many officer-involved shootings, right? And we have what we call good shootings or bad shootings. Okay, and those distinctions are made. Anytime there is an officer-involved shooting, there's an investigation, and anytime there's an officer-involved shooting with a fatality, then there's a grand jury impaneled to investigate the shooting, and the grand jury will determine if it was a justifiable shooting or if it was not justified. And if it was not justified, then typically there will be indictments.
Right.
Okay. From everything I've seen in my years of experience investigating officer-involved shootings, I wanted to let the audience understand that the standard that the officers will be judged by in the criminal justice system is called the reasonable officer standard. And that standard says, would another officer with your same training and experience put in the same situation come to the same conclusions and actions that the officer, in this case, officers involved came to? Now, from my years of experience in looking at this was an unjustified shooting. Okay. There was a barrier between themselves and the 17-year-old autistic person in crisis. Okay. Yes, that person had a knife. There was little to no communication between the four officers. All of them had lethal weapon produced, and there were no non-lethal options deployed. There should have been better communications. Now, you may say this is Monday morning quarterbacking, but after every shooting, there's an investigation and an after action report. So yes, this is going to be judged by that agency, by the district attorney's office, and a grand jury. So yes, there is after action reports produced, and I'm giving you an after action from my view of this.
Right.
Okay. The lack of communications, the short period of time, they did not follow the force continuum, right? Which starts off with verbal into less lethal and then lethal. Okay. They jumped right to lethal. Now, if they had communicated better and they could have said, okay, two of us will have our lethal options. The other two deploy less lethal and then coordinate the less lethal attack. Not attack per se, but the less lethal deployment of those systems to try to disarm this person before going to a lethal option. And having that fence as a barrier is a big part of that too.
And I'm going to ask you to go back to your memory. And I know that you and I are starting to age a little bit, but go back to the police academy. Remember the justification for use of deadly physical force? We had to pass that within 100%. It wasn't a pass or fail with 70%. You needed to get that. I remember this like it was yesterday. The progression in the use of deadly physical force, we had to go through testing. There was testing in the police academy. This is the largest police department in the United States, the NYPD. We could not go out onto the street without passing that exam within 100%. Why? Because they didn't want this. And it still happens. It still happens because these incidents, these events happen real quick. But at 17 seconds, with a barrier between our victim, Victor Perez, and the police, and the police being able to had one of the four could have had his yellow taser deployed and ready to go and engaged and shot this suspect with the taser. This victim, I shouldn't even say suspect, but in their mind, they had a suspect there because of the call, the nature of the call. They could have tased him easily and had him under control, and he'd still have been alive today to talk about this. So, I mean, that exam in the academy, Ed, way back 20 some odd, 30 some odd years ago, 35 years ago, was something that stuck out to me when Julie Moskowitz sent this case to me to review, both of us to review. And I said, I'm not sure if these guys got that kind of training in their police academy. I don't know what Pocatello police does. I have no idea about the police department. So your thoughts, Ed?
Well, yeah, I mean, that was a pass or fail test that we had to take. And if you didn't pass it, you didn't get your gun. You had to be retrained.
Right.
But the point is, I'm looking at this, and from everything I've seen in all the news clips and and knowing my investigations of numerous officer-involved shootings, I would justify this as a bad shooting. I would claim, in my opinion, it's a bad shooting. They had other options. They could have pulled back from the fence, and whether this person was drunk or intoxicated or off meds or whatever the case, that's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
Okay. It doesn't change any of the facts of how the officers reacted and how they deployed their weapon systems. Okay. Again, less lethal, verbal, less lethal, lethal.
Right.
That's the force.
Also, too, I want to just interject here. What about the de-escalation? There was no attempt at de-escalation. And if there was 4 officers there, Ed, they all looked very physically fit and capable. Why couldn't 2 of them jump the fence on the opposite side and approach this person from behind and tackle them to the ground?
Well, there were other options. There were other options. I did hear people saying, "Drop the knife, drop the knife, drop the knife." Okay, the family was even saying that. The family was trying to get their loved one to discard the knife. But again, there were other options, and based on my years of experience, it was not a justified shooting.
Ed, I appreciate your. I know you got to run because you got Army training today and tomorrow, but this is an important case, and I had the day off, and I didn't want to, let the day go by without jumping on this. I wanted to do it yesterday, but I had that coughing spell that happened to me with the coughing, and I feel it coming on again. So the more I talk, the more it happens. So there's so many people in the chat, Ed, from Pocatello. It's not just Julie Moskowitz. I counted about 4 or 5 people from Pocatello, Idaho. So if you're from that area or even a surrounding area, let us know in the chat if you're from around that area and what your thoughts are. So this press conference happened on April 10th. It's now April 14th. So this was 4 days ago. It took them a full 5 days to give this press conference. And if somebody's from the local area, please confirm this, because I did see reports and I saw written articles in the news that the Pocatello police at a protest utilized snipers on the roof of their police or municipal building. Ed, did you hear that? Or did anybody hear that? That they had snipers on the roof? Maybe there was some kind of death threats or something like that. But that to me was a little troubling in a smaller type community like Pocatello, that the people are protesting, rightfully so. There's community unrest behind this. But did the Pocatello police have snipers on a roof? Okay, here's Queen of Petty. She's from Pocatello. She said they had snipers. Ed, why do you think they had that?
Was it an Overwatch type situation? Were they concerned about the crowd being armed and attacking? I don't know. They have to justify that.
Was there intel that they got that the public didn't know about? Was the public in danger? Was there somebody else there that wanted to do something? I don't know. So
did they think it was going to be another Dallas situation where there was after the protests, a sniper came out and started shooting the police? I don't know. Yeah. But they're going to have to justify why they deployed a sniper at a protest in front of their was it their police headquarters? Where was it?
I believe it was outside the police headquarters. She said they had a threat call of a bombing. Well, if you have a threat call of a bombing, I don't know what a sniper would do there. No, that doesn't sound right, Ed, does it?
I don't know. I don't know what the hell's going on, but all I know is what I saw in that video was very disturbing to me. And you know, as I said, I can only give you my experience based upon thousands of crime scene investigations, numerous officer-involved shootings, both justified and unjustified. And this one I'm calling unjustified.
100%. Gemma, thank you for the super chat. I was going to get to them towards the end, but I'll do it now. She said, this mayor sounds non-authentic, and as an autistic woman myself, this is heartbreaking. Police did not need to use deadly physical force. I agree, Gemma, and I thank you for, your channel and for everything that you do for the autistic community. You're a brave woman, you're a strong woman, and we appreciate you. Thank you.
Hey, Ron, I got to run.
All right, Ed, I'll talk to you soon. Thank you for chiming in. There goes Ed Wallace, everybody. All right, we got to work on Ed getting a profile picture for when he doesn't engage his camera. He needs to get a little bit more sophisticated. So I'm gonna put him up. I'm gonna get him up to standards. Thank you for all the super chats and all of these super sticker messages, and thank you for the Beth becoming a member. Let's listen to the rest of this police press conference. Let's hear what this police chief had to say, even though it's going to get us even more angry.
They're behind the 702, right in that like brown house.
It's a White House.
White House.
And there's a blue car parked on the street next to it. Seems to be arguing now.
Okay.
Yeah. It's good. It's an administrative hearing. Yeah. And I'll be the officer here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me answer this question out really quick. Robert says the chief is blaming the caller. You as a public servant cannot blame a 911 caller for the actions, the actions that were taken by your police officers. You cannot point the finger and blame a 911 caller for the improper actions taken by your own police officers. So, Robert, if anybody feels that the police chief is going to point the finger at the caller, that's hogwash. That is bullshit. I'm not saying you're saying it. I'm not saying you, Robert, are bullshit, but that's a bullshit excuse. There is no way in hell that anybody is going to buy that excuse, because the police are the ones that are empowered to protect and serve the community, not to respond and kill.
just want to make sure that you look like you're finding the right people. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
All right, let's hear what he has to say.
Multiple officers responded due to the nature of the call. When officers arrived at 5:25 p.m., they saw a male on the ground holding a large knife. Here's a photo of the knife that was in his possession.
We all saw it in the video.
Two females were just a few feet away in the yard, and another male stood just outside the fence. Officers positioned just outside the yard gave repeated commands for the male to drop the knife. He did not comply. Instead, he stood up and advanced toward the officers while still armed. At that point, officers discharged their firearms, stopping when the male fell. PPD officers immediately began life-saving measures, and the male was transported to the Portland Medical Center, where he remains hospitalized. In situations like this, officers must make decisions in seconds. They assess threats, not just to themselves, but to those nearby. In this case, two individuals were within a few feet of an armed, non-compliant individual. The risk was immediate and the situation rapidly evolving. We know this incident has deeply affected the community. We are also aware of the video circulating online, which shows only one angle. The full picture requires careful review of all facts and evidence. PPD is not releasing the male's name, but can confirm he is 17 years old. The incident is being investigated independently by the Eastern Idaho Critical Incident Task Force, made up of outside independent agencies and a parallel internal investigation.
Okay, and we say it over and over again. Yes, knives are very, very dangerous. And the experts will tell you that an armed encounter with someone with a knife in close range it could be even more deadly than someone with a gun in close range. Nobody's arguing that there was other people in danger. The civilian who was filming on the outside and the mother who lives with her son on a regular basis and knows what he's capable of was inside that fence. But when those police officers came and shot 9 times, the mother was not even in the range of the video, and they could have asked her before this all went bad, they could have asked her, "Ma'am, please come out on the other side of this fence or go into your home and lock your door." This young autistic boy that was nonverbal was not like graceful like a gazelle. He was not able to get around quickly. Yes, he did stand up and did lunge forward towards those police officers. But ladies and gentlemen, I present this to you. What was in front of those police officers that would have stopped him from getting to him? A freaking chain link fence, 5-foot chain link fence. There was not an unobstructed path directly to those cops. They could have backed up. They had had that fence. They could have backed up and they could have tased them. That's what we're talking about here. And I get that these are split-second decisions, but they had more than a split second. They were the ones that came and approached that fence. They didn't give themselves extra space, and they went in 17 seconds to lethal force. When you have a fence as a barrier in between you, that's huge. That's a huge advantage for the guys, the good guys, the cops. When you have a bad guy, and I'm not saying that Victor Perez was a bad guy, but when you have someone that is brandishing a knife and you have a fence in between you, that's a huge advantage for you. It's a huge advantage. I don't care how you
a teen with autism is fighting for.
All right, this is a local reporter. I want you to hear this because he goes to the local people and asks them what their thoughts are about this. So Victor Perez was fighting for his life at this time,
his life after being shot 9 times by the Pocatello police. I'm your neighborhood reporter, Joey Martin, talking with people in Pocatello who are pressing the local police department, asking why this incident had to end so violently. A warning to our viewers, the video and details you're about to see could be disturbing.
A few of the neighbors that live here got it all, and then started sending it all over the internet.
2 days after the Pocatello police shot 17-year-old Victor Perez in his family's backyard, the community is demanding answers.
You know, why didn't you do other things to de-escalate the situation?
Police were called to this Pocatello house around 5:30 Saturday for a report of a domestic disturbance. What happened next was caught on camera by neighbors and was quickly circulated on social media. In the video, you can see Perez on the ground, showing signs of distress, at times unable to stand. When police arrive, Perez can be seen attempting to stand in a...
If you look at this, the mother is back over here. She's right here. The son is here. Can you guys see my cursor on the screen? I know I could see it. I just want to make sure you guys see the blue cursor. This is Victor Perez. He's down on the ground. Okay, great. Thank you, G. Thank you, G. Victor Perez is down on the ground, right? There's the man who's outside the fence back over here. There's the mother who's a decent distance. She's about 3 or 4 feet away from him. And then there's a man back here. That's the other property, the house next door. Looks like a man. If it's a woman, I'm sorry. It looks like a person right here on the opposite, in the adjacent property. So there's a man right here or a woman. And he's on the ground. He's down on the ground. Why? Why didn't they stay back and ask this woman? They didn't know that was the mother, but ask this woman, hey, miss, what the F is going on here? What's going on here? And she could have said, that's my son. He's autistic. He can't talk. He's nonverbal. He has, he's harmless, but he's off his meds, or he's having an episode, or he's this, that. They had time to assess, but they didn't. They went straight to that fence with guns drawn, and that drew in a reaction from this autistic nonverbal boy. He got up.
Perez can be seen attempting to stand.
Still down. There's 2 cops at the fence, and he's still down.
And approach the officers with what appears to be a knife in his hand.
Now he starts moving to get up. This is the guy with the shotgun now coming up. Nobody talked to her. Nobody asked her, hey, lady, what's up? Hey, guy, here's the guy outside that was videoing and filming or whatever. Hey, pal, what's up with this kid? What's going on here?
That's when officers open fire, hitting Perez 9 times. Christopher Spradling lives next door.
I started hearing a bunch of gunshots, and when I came out, I came over here to the side of the road, and I see a young man just laying on the yard, and the cops surrounding him. Yeah, I don't know what happened, but I think it was not cool what they did to the kid.
Family members confirmed to a local ABC affiliate that Perez is on the autism spectrum. Spradling tells me he's a good kid.
No, he didn't look like a threat to me. He seemed like a cool kid. He minded his own business. He just stood in the yard.
With the video now seen across the state, people in Pocatello are pressing the police for answers.
My biggest question is why? Why did it have to escalate so quickly without any other precautions?
A protest and candlelight vigil were held in front of City Hall on Sunday evening, with more than 100 people showing up, including Bill Gerst.
You armed with tasers, pepper spray, you got bean bags, you guys got dogs.
Look, you guys heard me in the beginning of this video. This is a guy. This is just a resident, right? Has no law enforcement experience. Does anybody remember me saying they got tasers, they got mace, they got a nightstick? He says it all. This is a regular person. That's not a cop. And this guy here with the Nirvana shirt has more sense than the cops that responded.
You armed with tasers, pepper spray, You got bean bags, you guys got dogs. I mean, you guys got more people than this person, you know. You could have done anything, maybe subdued him.
Gerst says he understands the police using this type of force if necessary at times, but he doesn't feel this particular situation was handled the right way.
I understand that the situation and the way that the cops may have perceived it as a situation that definitely needed to be handled, but I also feel like there should have been other steps and precautions that were taken before opening fire.
I did reach out to the Pocatello Police.
I agree 100% with that. With that guy's assessment. All right, let's listen to some coverage from the 10th after that press conference happens. This is some CBS local news. Hold on a second. I don't know why my computer is doing this. All right. Local news reaction. CBS local. All right. This is actually
continuing to follow the recovery of 17-year-old.
Hold on. Krems 2 news, and then we'll wrap it up. I'll take some questions from you guys if you guys want to ask any questions. This is from April 10th.
Recovery of 17-year-old Victor Perez, an autistic teen shot by police in Pocatello, Idaho. As video of the incident circulates on social media, his family and community are speaking out. Our sister station in Boise reports they're hoping.
All right, let me just stop this. Here's a comment from CWIP. Why is the news posting edited video? They are editing the video because they're under constraints where they can't show someone being shot on video. It's the same reason if I showed it here, the video would get taken down. The YouTube and the internet gods do not like when you show someone actually getting shot, killed. So the news is under restrictions where they can't put that on national, on public TV. They should. I watched the full and unedited version on Facebook, and you could see that he was getting up and was coming towards the cops, but he was leaning forward like he was going to fall down as they shot him. And then they shot him as he was falling forward. Before they even shot him, he was falling forward. He was not stable on his feet. I saw the full unedited video. So there goes that.
To raise more awareness about autism as Victor remains in critical condition.
It started with this 911 call Saturday evening.
There's a couple up behind their shop for anything and diet.
The caller reported that 17-year-old Victor Perez was trying to stab his family.
Look at that. So this guy was inside this area and came and closed that driveway gate. So this guy that was holding up a phone to either taking pictures or videos, and in addition to this person on Facebook from across the street that filmed this video, he was in there with her and he was backing out and closing the gate. Why was he closing the gate and backing out? To give himself safety from him, from Victor. How about that? This guy had enough sense. I'm safe if I'm on this side of the fence. Unlike the police thought process.
Behind their shop for anything and diet.
The caller reported that.
Look at him. He's crawling. Now he's trying to get up, and the mother's trying to assist him or grab him to get the knife away, and he falls back down.
17-year-old Victor Perez was
right back down.
Was trying to stab his family.
So this guy, he's pretty strong.
But Victor's family says that's far from what was really happening.
¿Era el niño una amenaza a ustedes en particular?
La amenaza eran ellos.
Victor's grandfather, Luis Alicea, says that he was outside with Victor's mom and sister preparing for a barbecue when he saw Victor walking over.
Ese palo que está ahí, ¿no ves? Yo lo quería para picarlo para cocinar. Entonces yo veo que el niño, yo estoy aquí afuera buscando leña de esta leña que está aquí. Ahí. Y cuando yo vengo ya para acá, ya viene el niño. Mi hermanita vino con la escoba para ver.
So there's the 911 report from the neighbor across the street watching this man try to get the broom to hit him with the stick. that makes sense of what the guy saw, that he was trying to hit him, as you heard him say in Spanish here, with the broomstick to get the knife from him. So there you have it.
Ahí, cuando yo vengo ya para acá, ya viene el niño. Mi hermanita vino con la escoba para ver si me quitaban el cuchillo.
He says Victor was holding a knife, but he didn't seem threatening.
Pero cuando yo vengo para acá, pues yo veo al niño que viene de allá para acá con un cuchillo. Pero yo no sé si él viene a jugar conmigo, a traerme el cuchillo para ayudarme.
In a press conference, Pocatello police say they arrived on scene responding to what they believed was a dangerous situation.
The risk was immediate and the situation rapidly evolving.
In a social media video recorded by a witness, you can see Victor swinging the knife. PPD says Victor was armed and refused to follow orders.
Officers positioned just outside the yard gave
and refused to follow orders.
Officers.
You see him get up there and he thrusts forward, but he's in the falling position. He's not standing straight up on his legs. He gets up and then falls forward.
Just outside the yard gave repeated commands for the male to drop the knife. He did not comply. Instead, he stood up and advanced toward the officers while still armed.
Victor's family says those commands may not have meant anything to him. He is autistic, nonverbal, and does not understand English.
No, él no entiende inglés. El niño es un nene incapacitado. Él no puede caminar. Él ni habla.
He can't walk. He doesn't speak much.
No habla mucho. Él camina, pero él no camina normal. Y yo le decía a ellos, mira, no disparen, que es un niño especial. No me hicieron caso nada.
Despite Luis's plea with officers, police shot Victor.
If you service a community that speaks Spanish, wouldn't you think that one of these 4 officers understands Spanish a little bit? Poquito? If they don't, if you don't have anybody that's out on patrol that is Spanish speaking or that understands Spanish, then you're underserving a community.
Como en menos de 3 segundos empezaron a disparar. No dialogaron nada. Bueno, en los videos canta todo.
PPD says Victor was shot 9 times before officers rendered aid.
Él se fue a levantar, ya el niño estaba casi de pie, ahí mismo le dispararon. Se ve la medida porque en el hombro le dieron un tiro. Bajito. Gracias a Dios que no le cogieron la cabeza.
The incident has left his family with questions about why deadly force was used so quickly, especially against a teen with disabilities.
¿Por qué piensas que dispararon ellos?
Yo creo porque no tienen escuela. Le falta más training. Y el que le dio training a ellos está más malo que ellos.
But the family is not alone. Community members also speaking out, standing in solidarity with Victor.
I laid down just a couple of flowers for Victor Perez. As being autistic myself, I thought I'd pay tribute as well.
And for many, the shooting is a call to better understand people on the autism spectrum.
I hope that we can all understand autistic people more and see how unique they could be, really, and just pay more attention to what's going on and not discriminate based on race, language, or skin. Because that's just a little bit of a problem nowadays.
Some community members are expressing frustration, saying they haven't heard from other city leaders about the situation. One resident sent an email to Pocatello Mayor Brian Bladd saying, quote, "What's even more disheartening is your silence. When children can be shot by police despite obvious warning signs, language barriers, and physical separation, and city leadership chooses not to speak, it sends a chilling message that we should not expect accountability, transparency, or change."
That says it all. My heart breaks for this family. My heart also continues to break for the community. It's really sad. And I want to thank everyone for the super chats and the support. Dr. Ed Moskowitz, thank you, Julie, for the $20 super sticker. Super chat, she says, thank you so much. No, thank you. Smiling is contagious. DutyRon, they said they have language barrier. There's no excuse. If you can't understand the situation or what's going on, then you take a step back and you figure it out. In that situation, there was other options that they could have taken. Smiling is contagious. The person of interest was in a fenced-in area, and they could have excluded the danger to the others. As the police chief said, there was others in danger, meaning the mom. The gentleman was on the opposite side of the fence with the police, but he did not speak English. So there was many other options that could have been deployed here, but they went straight to lethal, deadly physical force, deadly lethal force. I just want to make sure that there's nothing else that I missed. Okay, hold on a second. One more. I think I have one more thing. Hold on. It was Good Morning America yesterday. Oh, where is it? Yesterday, an FBI agent was on ABC News, Brad Garrett, and he gave some pretty interesting insight to this. Hold on a second. I want to play this because I think it's important. Let's see if I can get this right. I can't. Why is this happening? Shiitake mushrooms. All right. I don't like to give up, so give me 2 seconds. Give me 2 seconds. I'll fix it. So Brad Garrett is a retired FBI agent, and he says a couple of really interesting things here in this piece. And then
we'll tell you about a tragic end.
We'll take some questions from you guys right after this. So hold your questions. #DutyRon in the chat, and I'll pick out the questions that are that matter most to you guys.
And for an Idaho teenager with autism shot by police about a week ago, Victor Perez died after being removed from life support. The 17-year-old was wielding a knife when he was shot 9 times by police. Family now seeking justice. Joining me now with more on this is ABC News contributor and former FBI agent, Brad Garrett. Brad, good to see you. Thanks for coming in on a Sunday to talk about this. How does the police investigation into this shooting change, if it changes at all, now that the teen has unfortunately died after being taken off life support?
So you have to go back to the beginning of a shooting, which basically is what precipitated the officers to justify using deadly force. And we don't know that at this point. We just know that they shot this child multiple times and he ultimately died. So it's all going to go to what's the justification. There's some reporting about a weapon, maybe a knife. In what context is that? What is that? In other words, is he waving the knife? Does he actually run toward one of the officers? They probably don't know the mental state of him. I would be willing to guess. Obviously, officers are trained to protect themselves if somebody comes at them with something that's deadly, a weapon, a knife, whatever it might be. But there's a whole thing, Phil, called shooting review teams, and they'll basically start at the beginning. What was the initial information? Why did they go to the house? Why did they end up in a location that might have been the backyard, if I recall, of this house with the person who was shot? And it's like a TikTok. You're going to have to walk through every element of that.
Yeah, and the video that we're showing right now, they'll obviously be a big part of that investigation. There was a lot going on in this video. You see the 4 officers there with their guns drawn. Brad, the family, Victor Perez's family, says that the officers should have tried to de-escalate the situation before firing those shots. Can you talk to us a little bit about how officers are trained to de-escalate situations like this one?
So the key is obviously getting people to connect with you. Now you're in a crisis situation, Phil, where you have somebody that's distraught for whatever reason. And if he has a weapon like a knife, you try to talk him through in a very direct but non-agitated voice. We're the police. We're here to help you. We just need to talk to you. Would you put the knife down? It's much like in dealing in a hostage negotiation situation where you try to de-escalate the language to begin with. You also have to be cognizant of your own body language. You know, where are you in proximity of this child? And then go from there. Of course, the problem here is if you're communicating with somebody that is autistic, it changes the reality. Again, these officers aren't trained to diagnose people. And so the reactions, obviously, of this child to some other person in the same situation may be different and may be construed as, threatening. And maybe it was. We have no idea at this point. But you have to make decisions quickly sometimes, Phil, is the problem. And if he comes at them with a knife and they told him not to move forward, and he keeps coming, then that may be one of their justifications in shooting him. Obviously, they can't stand there and get stabbed. So all of these things are playing into it. But there's a big issue, Phil, in the law enforcement community in dealing with people who have mental health challenges, because they confront them all the time on the street. And we'll see what they knew before the shooting started.
Yeah, I've done a couple stories with specific departments that actually have mental health experts go out onto calls with officers, and that seemed to help in some of the places where I've done those.
It's definitely not practical. You don't have enough mental health professionals that can go on patrol with every cop. So that's not an idea that is workable. Giving the officers more training is what's workable. You need to have these guys know about the progression of deadly lethal force. You need to go through that progression of force before you get to something like this, where you see officers just firing at somebody with a weapon. And again, I want to thank everybody for being here. Hashtag DutyRon in the chat. There's a lot of questions, and there's a lot of people arguing in the chat, and there's really no room for that, because we just need to have respectful conversations. There's right and wrong in every situation. In this situation, it's very clear to me from seeing the video, and I saw the full total video before it was taken off of Facebook. I watched it with my own eyes, and I saw it from beginning to end, what happened, and what happened didn't need to happen. There was other options available to these police officers. So on behalf of Crime Time with DutyRon and Ed Wallace, I think that, there's room for change here. And from every horrific incident like this, where an innocent life is taken by the police, you can look to make corrections so it doesn't, try to ensure that it doesn't happen like that again. So training is key. Like I said, before we left the police academy and got onto the street, we had to pass with 100% the progression of the use of deadly physical force and the progressions of what you use before you get to that. And in some instances, you go directly to deadly physical force, and it's warranted. In a situation like this, where there were so many other options because of the fence, because of the distance, because of the way they were able to isolate and contain this individual, they never utilized that. And that's where the problem comes into play in my eyes. My eyes might be different than your eyes, but I got to tell you, I've been in many situations like this, not this exact particular situation, but I've been in close quarters with people who have mental health issues, people who are autistic, people who are nonverbal, and we would always isolate and contain them if possible and go to a less than lethal method of apprehending them and taking them into custody and getting them treatment, mental health treatment at the hospital, not getting them treatment to have their legs cut off and to have them put on life support. So I've been in this position many, many times, and I could speak to this because I'm not just sitting here at home Monday morning quarterbacking this thing. I've been in positions where I've had my gun drawn on somebody, or where I've had my mace out or my nightstick. We didn't have tasers when I was on the job, but they have them now. And if I had taser, I would have used that thing a lot of times in situations that I used my mace and my nightstick before going to deadly physical force. So on behalf of Crime Time with DutyRon and Ed Wallace, I want to send strength, prayers, and positive vibes to Victor Perez's family, the community in Pocatello, Idaho. There are good people. There are good police officers there, but they need more training. It's obvious and evident here. So we'll be covering this and watching this closely. And I thank you all for being here. I thank you for the replay viewers, the moderators, the folks who are leaving their thoughts and concerns. If you want to continue the conversation, down below in the comment section, let me know what your thoughts are. If you agree with me or disagree with me, as long as we can have a respectful conversation, I'm open to it. So thank you all for being here. Love and respect. Have a good day, and we'll see you soon.